Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to build a workbench that can be transformed into a Mitre saw table. The very first thing I did is to bring electricity into the shed. I purchased a 25 meters long extension lead and a 25 meters long conduit tube. This will protect the electric cable. I sealed the conduit tube with silicone. Next step was to install lights in the shed. These are LED lights, really bright. I'm very happy with the result. I bought 2 pairs, so I will have strong LED lights in my shed. Installing these was very simple and quick. Usually, I start off with drawing a simple design, then I start building it, changing few things as I go if I need it. Now that I have my plan, let's get started. I quickly made a support that holds the timber while I'm cutting them on the miter saw. I used some leftover plywood for this. First, I cut the timber for the top of the bench, the legs, and the few pieces will make the bench stable and sturdy. When I was done cutting, I built a frame that will be the top. I clamped them together. This is very important since the top of the bench needs to be straight and level. I used 10 cm long screws as I wanted a really strong workbench. And of course, I made the screw heads flush with the timber using countersink. When the frame was ready, I moved on to the legs. I clamped a speed square underneath to help me keep the legs flush with the top. Then I clamped the legs to the frame and screwed them together. My screw wasn't long enough, so I drilled a larger hole about halfway into the wood. Then I did the same to the other parts of the leg and I screwed the other ends of the legs with long screws. This is how it looks after I've done 4 legs. As a next step, I measured how much space I need for the miter saw to fit in and screwed the first piece of wood inside the frame. I added another 2 pieces to make the workbench really sturdy. I measured the length between the other ends of the legs, cut 2 pieces of timber and screwed them the same way I did before. Then I cut 2 pieces to connect them and screw them together with long screws. Since my miter saw is at the very end of the bench, I wanted to make the edge expandable. I added another piece of wood between the legs so I could remove the end piece and make it expandable. I had these heavy-duty bearing runners sitting around, so I thought I would give it a try. At this point, I decided to install the wheels. I cut few pieces of plywood and screwed them to the bottom of the legs so the wheels can sit on a flat surface. Before I turned it over, I made the bottom shelf stronger as well by adding a couple of pieces of timber between. Then I cut out the bottom shelf using 18mm plywood. After making sure it's a perfect fit, I screwed it down. I moved on to the Mitre saw station. I cut a piece of plywood to hold my Mitre saw when I'm using it. I screwed it to the table and I left a gap on each side. This will help me to clean easily the sawdust. Then I marked where I can screw the saw down and placed threaded inserts in the plywood. Using these will prevent the wood from damaging over time. I used my dowel jig to screw the holes exactly 90 degrees. I glued a piece of timber next to the saw. This helped me to place my saw to the correct position every time. The saw has a couple of tools to change the blade, and I didn't want to look for these when I need them, so I decided to keep them close and I added few pieces of wood to hold them next to the saw. I realized that the saw would be lower than the top of the workbench, so I had to lift it up. Adding a 9mm plywood sheet solved the problem. Because the wood for the tools were already glued to the bench, I cut out a piece from the edge. Then I mirrored the holes for the threaded inserts, glued the plywood and let the glue set. After this, I worked on the expandable edge. All I had to do now is add the top of the bench. I used 18mm MDF for this, since it has much smoother surface and of course cheaper than plywood. Once again, I used threaded inserts on the piece that is going to be removable. A quick test to make sure it's a perfect fit. For the other side of the bench, I used small brackets to hold the top from underneath. In this way, I won't have any screws on the top of the bench. As a finish, I applied 2 coats of poly on the workbench, but it's completely up to you if you want to paint it. I hope you enjoyed this build. Let me know if you liked it in the comment section. Stay tuned, as next week I will continue to work on the workshop. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so you won't miss the next video. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and share to help the channel grow. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. As always, thank you for watching and see you in the next one.